Okay, so this was just so that I have it. P1 real numbers. Handwriting's gotta come back here from last year. Never really written on my iPad in a while. Alright, so we decided that we need to start at the properties of real numbers.
We're restarting, right?
No.
I'm not completely restarting P1. I'm starting where, in theory, he left off. So if you need the stuff that he may have given you, I can
Can
post.
you just send me all the notes for this? So
Yeah.
I can just write it all down.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
fine.
wasn't your notebook destroyed?
Yeah, because
Her notebook got waterlogged.
she knows. We
Our
talked
whole
about it.
backpack got destroyed.
I'll let you take a picture when we're done.
Thank you.
And then that way you can have it. Alright, so let U, V, and W be real numbers. Variables or algebraic expressions.
I just spelled real R-E-L-A.
So basically this first thing is just those are the letters that I'm going to be using to list out the different properties and stuff. And it's saying that they can symbolize any of those three options. So we'll have the property, actually, well, yes, we are going to do that, but I'm going to make my little chart first. Okay. Now let's switch back.
Oh, right, your lines are always perfectly straight because you can make them perfectly straight.
And if y'all want to like use any kind of technology like this and do your stuff, you
I
can.
should have a pen.
You should get one for Christmas.
I should. I'm gonna ask her for it. And then I won't be taking
I know
notes in
Logan
class.
takes his notes on like his math book.
You can get one of those like mouse pads, like Apple mouse pads, where you could write on it, but no, I'm not rich enough for that.
All right, so I'll list off the property and then I'll do it for addition and then for multiplication. So let's see. Commutative. U plus V is equal to V plus U. U times V is
The
equal to
sixth
V
graders are
times
learning
U.
this, or the seventh graders. I was literally helping Mrs. Holloway for my teacher's aid, and they're literally going over this right now, like the seventh graders.
Well, it's
Over
important.
It's something that you do every year. It's like the first section of pretty much every textbook because that's also the Algebra 2 is like first or second section that they do because it's the one that I assigned them a video for.
And I did not remember any of it, and I was like, I don't know this.
Dang,
It's
that's
one of
sad.
those things that honestly, until I started teaching it, I didn't really remember what they were.
Because you think they're so simple, so you never think to just like memorize.
You just like it's one of those things that like after like 6th or 7th grade, you just know to do them.
Yeah, like
and
you
it's-
can't like name off what you're doing. Like,
Yeah.
What property is this? I don't know. I just know you can do it.
That's why I'm not like super strict about like being able to list off all the properties. Like I do assign a few problems. Just I do think it's good to like be able to explain why you're doing something in case you're ever helping somebody. But it's one of those things that it's like I'm not gonna test you like an insane amount on because there's no reason for it.
I feel like the most one that we use is like distributed.
Oh, 100%. So then, let's see this one. U plus V plus W is equal to U plus V plus W. And of course, all my letters are going to look like basically the same because, you know, it's just where we're at.
Wait, they're not in the same order.
Yeah, they are.
One of it's the first one's U plus V plus W, right? And then
The second
U
one
plus
is
V
I
plus
can
W.
read. Oh my god.
I was like,
I can't do
I know I've got U's and V's up there, but I think I rounded off the U's enough.
I was like, why do
I'm
you use
okay.
like A,
I'm
B,
sorry.
C,
It's
please?
been a very difficult last.
No, I totally understand.
I was like, why did you use A, B, or C? Is that just an example that they have in the book?
Yeah, I think I used these letters because that was what they used in the book, and then if I try to like not do what's written on my paper, it's gonna be all over the place.
Because those letters are literally trash.
Yeah, this book uses U, V, and W for a lot of stuff.
Why? If
And
they don't want to use like A, B, and C because certain formulas are like A,
well, and
B,
A, B, and C normally aren't used as variables. Usually when I do this, I use like M and N and like sometimes L or something like that, but L gets confusing because it looks like one. I don't like how that looks. I'm going to rewrite it. So U plus 0 is equal to U, and U times 1 is equal to U.
That one? Okay, that one just, yeah.
Garrett had to be like, wait, U times 1 is not U.
No, I'm just like, why would we need to write that down at any point?
Other than literally doing the problems where you have to say what each step is, you won't need it, but.
Yeah, but we're not taking geometry anymore,
I feel
so
like
we
this
don't
is
need
more
to
of
do
a
that.
common sense thing, personally. But
Well, I mean, I'm going to give you, like, some problems that you have to say what each step is, but
That sucks.
that's just because you don't like to write down.
literally just for this section, and then it's done and gone.
Okay, because for sure, I'm not going to be able
Like
to
how
do
we did
that.
the ones last year, and I don't give any that are obnoxious. The ones that are like 3 steps, and you just have to explain why you can do each step.
Yeah, not like ones that are going to be like 18 steps. Write down all 18.
I think one year I accidentally gave one that was like 5 to 7 steps, and grading that was awful because if you do something like some problems, there's like even following order of operations, there's like 2 like orders you can do things, or like if it's one of those where I'm like, you choose to combine it how you want, grading it is a bear because I have to go through and it's like I may have an expectation of how it's going to be done, but that may not be, your thought process might be different than his, than hers, and there's 3 different right answers, but I have to go through and grade them all. So I try to give something that's like 3 steps so that if by some chance they're different, it's fine.
I don't know how Mrs. Marshall grades her geometry. I'm pretty sure
No.
she does like the shortest method. You have to
I
do the
would
shortest
not
method.
want to teach geometry and have to
Like
grade it all.
proofs? Oh
Teaching
my
it's
God.
fine. Grading it,
Like the way she grades it, I'm pretty sure she does like the shortest method. If you do the shortest method, it's correct. But if you
Yeah,
don't
if
do
you
the
do the
shortest method,
longest one.
if
I
you
mean-
don't do the shortest method, you get points off.
Yeah, it's like either it's this method or no method.
Because
Yeah.
I was like one of those kids that would like try to find the shortest method, and then other kids would find another way to get the answer, and they would get the question wrong for it, and I'll be like, oh, I feel bad for you.
I have some like family friends that are like y'all's age, and they were taking geometry, and it was virtual, so they basically had a proof that they were supposed to do, and then it had all these little like labeled like strip steps, and they had to figure out what order they were supposed to go in. And she was like asking me, and I was like, I'm gonna be honest, geometry was a long time ago, and I have no idea. I was like, I know given is first. I was like, that's about it.
Multiplication over addition thing supposed to be over the distributive thing.
Yeah, so it's gonna be, I'm gonna list off the distributive with 2 separate, 1 over addition and 1 over subtraction, which I could write all as one, but I'm just gonna do it separately so that it's there.
Oh my gosh, why do I keep this going distributive? It's not even that hard. Like, what the heck?
What are the seventh graders taking? Oh, they're taking pre-algebra. So, yeah, that's
Yeah.
why they're doing it.
I loved that class. I'm also really
I like it, but I think I would struggle to teach it.
Because it's like they're not supposed to know anything yet.
Mrs. Holloway is so good at teaching it.
Oh, I know. Just all the middle school teachers are just so gifted at doing what they do, and I just
You're a good teacher too.
I feel like I
Noel.
would like give too much information and be like, oh, and this is how you do this, and I'd be like, oh wait, but you guys can't learn that yet.
That would be.
that's my problem, because I would want to teach like way more. Like for example, like in 4th and 5th grade, if I were to go teach their math, I would never let them solve something like 7 plus 3 times 2 minus 5
They'll get it wrong.
in order, because I'm expecting order of operations.
Exactly.
But they don't technically start learning order of operations until like halfway through 5th grade.
Yeah, so they're just learning things.
And I think that's why people struggle so much with order of operations, because they weren't taught it to begin with, so then they have to
should
go
actually,
through
Like, when you start math, you should learn PEMDAS. Like, that's what you should learn first.
like mental math. Like, I don't know if y'all ever played games like this, but like we would come up to the front of the room and we'd be like back to back with somebody,
Oh, yeah.
and they would start like saying off like things like a strain of numbers, like I just did with like multiplication, division, adding, subtraction, all that in there. And they would say it in whatever order, and then at the end it was whoever could turn and say the answer the fastest, like got to stay up there or whatever. Well, that's fine. That's different. I don't like count that, but I'm like, when you're doing that on paper, like a lot, I'm like, you're not teaching these kids order of operations, and that's why I feel like so many struggle when they get to like 6th and 7th grade.
Because they're like, we can just solve it from beginning to end, and it's like, no.
And all those things that are like on social media that are like, oh, what's the answer to this? And it's like, well, the answer's
always-
0, because if you did all the steps in the right order.
And then everyone's like, no, it's
And they're
4.
like, no, it's 572. And I'm like, no, it's not.
I know. I find it really funny because, like, even my mom's like, oh, it's 572. I'm like, 0. And then I'm like, Mom. And then
Yeah.
she's like, how'd you get that? I'm like, Mom.
No
Order of
one,
operations.
no one ever follows PEMDAS online. They're just like, oh.
5 plus 4 times 3.
I know. I love sometimes just commenting and being
17.
like, PEMDAS people.
Like, learn math, please.
All right. So properties of the additive inverse. So we still have U and V. Here, you know what? We're going to try to switch it to M and N just to make things easier, because this could get a little confusing if not. So let's just try that. Let M and N be real numbers, variables, or algebraic expressions. So these ones are not going to be in a chart. They're just going to be just facts that, in theory, again, you should already know. But negative times negative U is just U.
Wait. M and N?
Thank you. Yes. See, I told you if it's what's on my paper, I'm just going to do it.
I mean, you can just change the letters back then.
It's fine. I'll get there. Some of these will be a little more confusing if not, because anyways.
Like, does that be U or V? I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know whether to feel bad or good for like people who are like quarantined right now, because like they get to kind of just lay in bed all day. Like they don't have to wake up on
It's
time.
awful though. Like, let me tell you, it's awful.
You have to. It's also U and V again.
It's
But I don't know. I feel like it'd be good and bad at the same time because you like stuck at home, but also you're like you don't have to
Okay,
wake
you're
up
taking
early.
your paper now.
I get that, though.
I'm pretty sure we only have like 7 people for this
I'm
class.
so mad at myself. I just missed a very important character in that Bible thing, though.
How do you miss God?
I don't know.
You
Sometimes
know
that's
God.
one, I don't know what you were doing, but sometimes that is one that it's just like you don't necessarily think, because
You don't necessarily like think characters.
not like
you
physical
know-
person, so it's like
No, I got like the Israelites and Gideon, like
You
I just
forgot
forgot
you forgot
God.
the Midianites too.
The main characters and like what they represent.
The Minionites.
God represents God, people. He can't take me off for that. Like we should know that.
What do you mean? God represents
yeah,
the
I don't know.
trustworthy.
Just stop. You know what?
But then
It's
you
okay.
get to wear whatever you want. Like
You know
all
what?
day.
I wrote so much for everything else.
that
You
is
can't-
nice.
And you just don't have to get ready. Like you just can look.
You don't have to like
stupid.
do your hair for a week.
Exactly. You can just.
That
wake
is like
up-
a major pro. This morning was the first time I've done my hair in 14 days.
Exactly. I just wouldn't like. I would just wake up and do my work.
13 days, I guess, technically.
It
Oh
takes
no,
way too
14
much-
days, because I did it. Yeah,
It just takes way too long to get ready. in the morning.
it does, honestly.
Somehow I like the way that Mr. Cass like was was explaining some stuff, but it confused
That's
everybody
because
else
you have
except
like
for me.
super math.
You like it because you don't like notes.
Yeah,
That's
I
why
got
you
it.
like it.
I mean, like, doing this is also fine if I just read it, but sometimes I eventually forget.
Well, I like writing it down because, like, I don't know, like, sometimes I'm like, I remember writing that down. Like, that's how I think.
You
Like,
know,
I'm
when
like,
you
I
have
wrote
the
this
memory
down,
of,
I
like
know
a
it.
squirrel or like a pea brain, it doesn't help because you don't remember you wrote it down. You just have to
Yeah.
go back and look.
All right, those are the 5 properties there.
All in the right levels.
All in the right letters. Now I'm really going to confuse you because the next ones are going to have U, V, AM, and M, and N.
Oh, I see. Fun.
How many were notes, like, or not many, I guess? How much?
It's just the last thing of properties.
Awesome.
There's 7 of them, but I'll probably write them side by.
I'm guessing
Sides,
we're
it'll
gonna
be
be
like 4
pretty
lines.
far behind in this class right now. We might catch up eventually, but
Yes and no. Like this class, like we don't cover more than through chapter 2 by the time
So it's all
Christmas
good.
is
Wait,
here.
what?
We'll only be to chapter 2 by
How?
like.
Well, I don't understand.
Because for some reason, the first like 3 chapters take like literally like 16 weeks to do, and then obviously there's like reviews and exams and stuff in there, and then after Christmas we cover like 3 through 7.
So we just speed it.
Yes, but like there's some
There's
things we
less stuff.
skip. I don't really understand. It kind of irritates me, and since we also started school a week late, yes, we probably aren't going to get through quite as much before
We started
Christmas,
a week
but
late and then
quarantines have happened,
And
and
then teachers don't teach their
Oh yeah, I
class
forgot
correctly.
we're a week behind. That's why Miss Greer, sorry, is like so, like, we're gonna be really behind, especially because we were pushing
know
this
what?
test so
Honestly,
much.
we can't go back. Just
You just gotta keep
you
going.
just got to keep trucking at this
Yeah.
point.
there's no point in worrying now.
All right, so let's see. I'm not gonna. Anyways, I'm not writing the whole U, M. They're real numbers. They're numbers, variables, algebraic expressions, blah
And if
blah
you don't know
blah.
that by now,
If you don't know that by now, then
Maybe you should go to the Lord.
yeah,
We
we'll
can
just
take that
leave
to
it at
the
that.
lower math.
So U to the M times U to the N is equal to U to the M plus N, and those are still over there by Berkeley's head.
Wait, U to the, it's still, they're both U's, right?
They're both U's, yes. When the V comes in, there's only going to be a V in 2 of them. When the V comes in, I'll make sure it's very pointy.
Thank you.
All right, U to the M over U to the N is equal to U to the M minus N. So remember, it's always the one on the top minus the one on the bottom.
Are we doing like imaginary numbers this year? I hate them so much.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure it's a lot later. I don't
Oh,
really
yeah.
remember. I'm going to say that, and it's going to be in like 2
It's like the
sections.
next
But
chapter.
I never remember the order of these
It's probably gonna be
sections.
like chapter 2 to be honest.
Oh wait, that's
Or,
still
like,
U.
It might honestly be chapter 1. And since it's kind of review, it might come up earlier than that. I don't
They're
know.
so annoying. Just
They
keep
do,
it
they
real.
do kind of make me a bit frustrated. Like, okay, I do have one question. When are you gonna need to know the imaginary answer for a problem in life?
There are more things than you would think that it comes up in, but it depends on what you're doing. A lot of people won't ever need to know that.
Just don't do something with nothing.
It's one of those things that it's so you won't answer something wrong on Facebook one day. When it asks you for the square root of a negative number or
So
something.
you look smart.
Miss Earhart, I'm wondering why we even take algebra 2 and trait, because basically pre-calc, but just a little bit harder. So why can we just take
In some
pre-calc?
respects.
Okay, my mom flipped out of pre-cal and went straight to like calculus in college, and she's like, it's the worst decision I ever made.
Yeah, I technically clept out of pre-cal as well, but I chose to take it because it does get you ready for calculus, which is why it's important.
I know like how like public schools they have like block schedules and they do things like by semester, not by year. So like you think they get by like through things faster, but a lot of like private schools are ahead of public schools in that. Like I still
We're
don't
way
understand.
ahead of most.
Because like we're taking pre-algebra like in 7th grade I think it is, and they're like we're taking that like now, and I'm like what do you mean? I took that like way, way long ago. And I'm like, how are we still ahead of you and we take things by year, not semester?
It honestly depends, like, it honestly depends.
Well, and some semester classes are different than, like, some people take double the amount of classes, but a lot of times your math classes
Wait, is the bottom?
you actually take as a whole year, even at schools that do
Block schedule.
like block that is either, if it's a, depending on if it's a true block that you take all like 7 or 8 classes all year, or if you do 4 classes this semester, because they're really only taking 4 classes at a time, because you still have to cover 180 days worth of material in 90 days essentially.
Oh, I see.
So it's like, it just kind of depends, because like when like Lexi went to PC, it was kind of like that. Like she was taking algebra 2 and then she took trig, but here that's all one class or
Yeah,
something
like-
like that. I don't remember if that's the
Yeah.
class she took
My
there,
mom
but
was
I'm using that
like
as an
that.
example. That's
Yeah.
kind of how they do it there.
Because I'm like, sometimes like I play with, like, get to know different people when I play volleyball, because I've been like with a lot of different clubs, and they're like, what math are you in? Like last year I was like, I'm in like,
And also, if you call it algebra 2 advanced, a lot of people don't know what that means.
I'm in algebra 2 advanced trig or whatever, and they're like, what? And they're like, they're taking the classes at the same time, and I was like, yeah, it's just one class put together. They're like always really confused, and I was like, and then they're talking about like how they're like algebra. I'm like, oh, I see.
Yeah, because I want to offer like a trig college algebra class, because that's the only way that somebody coming out of regular algebra 2 can
Yeah,
take
'cause you
anything
can't
other than
take
stats.
Yeah.
Which, like, in the grand scheme of things, it probably wouldn't make that much of a difference, but I go a lot faster in pre-cal with the trig stuff because you should already know it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, those quotations, definitely.
okay, so my question is, what example problems? Like, do I just need to go over some of these? I mean, we only have a few minutes left today, so,
He went over, you did.
like, I
the
have,
homework he gave us was 1 through 21, every other odd, 29, 37.
Like we did our actual homework, but so he did.
okay,
8
so he gave you the problems that are on my notes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then he gave us 8, 10, 12, 18, 28, and 32.
And then we continued the next day to do 51, 63, 64, 50, 16, and 10. 16 and 10 are.
So you said 47, 51, 57, 61, 63? That was the other set of homework. I just didn't catch all of what you said.
Yeah,
Alright,
basically.
so in
we did
all,
those.
for P1, we did 8, 10, 12, 18, 28, 32, 51, 63, 64, and 50.
Okay.
And then our homework, we actually did what you wrote down.
1, 5, 9, 13, 17, 29, 29, 31.
Okay.
And
So,
15, 32.
8, 10, 12, 18, and 22, and 14's in there too. All of those should have been done as examples. Were those done as homework or examples?
Examples.
We did them like together. Like,
Okay.
He was like, do these, and then we
He
kind
was
of
like, yeah.
Since it was technically a review, do you feel like you need to do them again, or you feel like we're okay with that? Okay.
I actually do.
So all the way through 22 was fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
We actually did 28, not 22.
Well, 22 was kind of confused. Oh, wait. That's the
22 is,
I don't know.
it's
where I am.
not-
Is
that's not a
22
big
the
deal.
1 over Y one?
22 was X is positive was the problem, and you
That's
had to
not-
write the interval that it's on.
I don't think we did 22.
We
But
did
you
not.
did 18.
Yeah, we did 18.
Okay, well here, I'll do 22 really quick just so that I know that y'all have what's in my notes,
Yeah,
because
I just-
that way when I go to do a quiz or a test, I know that I have done examples and that you have, because sometimes when I do my quizzes and tests, I do it off of what's in the notes, and so if I know that I did 22, I may give you something exactly like 22, but if y'all haven't seen it, that's not
He
really
also
fair.
wrote things like certain ways, like with brackets.
Yeah, so when you check our homework.
Yes, so
like,
that
you,
does-
Like, check our homework.
Yeah, so those do matter,
Like,
so.
do you want me to show you how he wrote it really quick?
Like, wait, can I just give you.
Well,
my-
I guess the question is, did
He like did a bracket.
were the bounded the intervals the notes like this?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
he showed us that part, but then he told us to write it like this. And I was like, what the heck is
No, absolutely not.
this? And then we were like, I don't think we're supposed to write it. So we wrote it like that some. But like I was like, that is not how
Yeah,
it's supposed to write it. And then he was like, kept
no.
on doing it that way, and I was like,
In college, you would probably write it that way, but I don't do it that way. It's too confusing for people.
Are you talking about the open and closed bracket?
No, we're talking about the brackets where it was like this.
Where it's like the absolute, no.
That's set notation, which is technically what he's showing there, which isn't wrong, but I would never have you guys do it that way because I don't like that
I
method.
actually did those very, like, those are
So-
pretty-
But I was like, that's how he told us to write it. And
Yeah,
I
I
was like,
didn't. I wrote it the way you told us to.
Okay, well, see here, really quick, then we're just gonna run through and I'll kind of just write down what all the problems should look like. So I'm just gonna go back to 8, that was my example, and these ones, this one says to describe and graph. I don't do the describe part, but graph the interval of real numbers. So 8 was from -3 to 3, and it's in the brackets there, okay? So for that one, when you're graphing it, I don't care about all the numbers on the number line. I just care about that, and I usually throw a 0 in there just because, which looks like a 6 in my thing. So we're just going to fix that real quick. So then, and if you guys want to use 2 colors, again, just to kind of help, that's fine. I don't care. But you just draw the brackets like this, which is maybe he also, I don't know if he did them differently. Okay. Some do circles, like the open circles, closed circles.
Yeah, he talked about that, but he didn't draw it.
Okay. So anyways, and then you just fill in the middle area here.
Yeah, we did most of this right.
Okay.
And
then-
I just didn't write it like the way he wanted us to, like the way in the set notation you said. I just
Yeah.
didn't write it like that because I knew it wasn't in the notes. It's not important. Not yet, anyway.
Yeah. So then with one like this, I just will go through kind of my thought process with this problem. So with something like this, if it's given in words, I like to put it into symbols of some sort. And so my thought process here would be, okay, x is greater than or equal to 2, so I'm going to write that. And then it's less than or equal to 6, so I have something like that. And then at that point, I would draw my number line. And again, I usually just put 0 and then the numbers that are needed on there.
So you know how like last year when we were talking about things like this, we did it like where x was in the middle, and we had like the 2 and the 6 on the outside.
Yes.
Are we supposed to do it like that this year?
There will be some like that that I'll go over in just a second, yeah.
So, like, is there a certain word that we're supposed to look for to know when we're supposed to use that?
Most of them, if you have one that way, it's probably not going to be written in words. The only ones I really do in words are something like this. It's very clear what it's going to be.
Because I know there was like and or last year.
Yeah, I mean, there still are, like those, they still exist. It's still the same rules, but I don't usually do as much with the words at pre-cal, just because it's not one of the more important topics of the year. Yeah. And don't forget, less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, it means brackets, okay? And then if it's just less than or just greater than, it's parentheses. Let's see. For writing the inequalities, it says to use an inequality to describe the interval of real numbers. We've got negative infinity to 4. And remember, infinity and negative infinity can never be a bracket. They've got to be parentheses because it's not technically a true ending point because infinity just keeps going forever. So you have 2 ways that you can write this, and both ways are acceptable. If for some reason on like a quiz or a test I mark one wrong, just be like, hey, I did what you said, blah, 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 because sometimes I just don't think about it, because my thought process here is I'm from negative infinity to 4, so I'm just going to say that x is less than or equal to 4, which is fine. The other way that the book will commonly write them, and you'll notice if you're checking in the back, is negative infinity less than x less than or equal to 4. Both of those are fine and acceptable. More often than not, I'm going to use that option. But
When you're, like, if you were to write the graph for that one, would you just not have a parenthesis?
yeah, so if I were to, it obviously isn't part of it, but if I were to be graphing this one, I would have something like this.
Okay, because that's what I did, and I was just making sure.
Yeah, that would just keep going, so. Alright, let's do this one then. I'll pick up tomorrow and we'll just wrap up the last couple things just to make sure y'all have everything the way I would do it. So with this one, we're given a graph instead this time, and it wants to know the inequality. And so the graph that was given was a bracket at -2 and a parentheses at 2 filled in between. So that would give us, we're in between here, and so the -2 less than or equal to x, less than, just less than, come on, 2, because it's in that area. I would write it this way instead of breaking it up like we did with the number 10 there, how it was written separately, so I wrote it separately. You can write this as x greater than or equal to -2 and x less than 2 if you wanted to, but I would say, I literally can't write today. I would do that option.